All right. What's up, everybody? It's Natural Freedom League, Episode 2. This is John Wydogen here today with Chill Will Keller, as well as our special guest, Chris Jantzen of EndEvil.com. Oh, no, EndEvil.Live, right?
.life, yes.
.life.
EndEvil.Life, yeah.
Yes, I'm glad you're here today, Chris.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it. Glad to be here.
Yeah.
No place I'd rather be, actually.
And good to see you too, Will. How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing good, brothers. Doing good, man. It's a good time for a good convo.
For sure.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to this. This is almost like if we can do this weekly, this is like therapy.
Oh, it is therapy for sure.
I was thinking about that today. So real quick. Oh, go ahead.
So often you have conversations with people and it's difficult to get past the first thing. But when I talk with John or when I talk with Will, we can talk about all kinds of things. It's fun.
No doubt.
Yeah, this might be episode 2, part 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. All right. So before we get started, Rick, I just wanted to read again our mission statement with the video series we have here, Natural Freedom League. The mission statement is to apply the trivium to the agenda against natural law in order to better discern the truth from the lies of the current state of humanity. So again, today's episode, it does apply to that. I think that's a good statement for what we're all working towards. And today's episode is moral law messaging for the masses. And I'll give a quick overview of my thought process on it, and then I'll let Chris and Will say their piece. We have a weekly meeting, and one of our friends was on the hot seat, and his issue was how to promote a website, how to promote whatever podcast you have going or project you have going. And my mind was thinking not only on that level, but also the messaging itself of natural law and how we reach people who are at all different places. They have all different prejudices and perspectives that they're coming from. And we need to be smart like a business in responding to these people and approaching these people. We need to think about what the messaging is and be strategic about our information and how we organize it. So that's the basic idea. Why don't you guys touch on that for a second?
One thing that occurs to me is our society is very consumers and used to movies and music that's all very finished and wrapped in a tight bow. And they're used to getting information in a pretty package that's all done and ready to go. Doesn't require a whole lot of thinking. So the only people I think that we can really talk to are people that are just in some way a little bit already open. They've already started tearing open the package a little bit and looking inside, and they're curious, because if you got it all figured out, there's nothing to figure out. But there's a lot of people out there like us who have in some way or another seen that there's something wrong in the world. Maybe they've seen it in the skies, maybe they've seen it in the vaccines, or maybe they see it in what's going on right now with this whole medical situation. But somehow there's some people out there that are ready for an understanding of what's going on. And what that really requires is some hard work, is some digging into truth. And that's what I hope we can do here tonight, is some deep digging of truth. What do you think, Will?
Yeah, no, I agree with both you guys. And there's so many angles to come at it. And people are so ensconced in their egos and how they, they identify with their egos. So ultimately, we're talking about the causal factors, objective truth, right? The causes of the major issues in the world, the primary issues in the world. So when you're talking about something that's going to test people's belief systems, it's going to strike a nerve emotionally for them, and they're going to be resistant and combative at times because they're clutching on to this ego identification and these belief systems. So the trick is to um, present it in a way that they automatically don't throw you in a box of dogma. I mean, it might sound like a religion to somebody that doesn't take the time and actually, apply logic and reason to exactly what you're saying. But so yeah, there's, it's all about there's some persuasion techniques and delivery and communication techniques that we're trying to focus on. And but regardless, the information stands. Objective truth, we're talking about objective morality, natural law. So yeah, it can be tricky at times, but this is why we have these convos.
Exactly. So something that popped in my head is when Chris, you mentioned the idea of who it is you are trying to reach. Like you had this idea that maybe there's some people that aren't all the way there or not even close to being there, and that it's going to have to be someone who's kind of um, on that path, right? But my thought is even broader than that. Like, okay, there's that person, but then what about the person who's nowhere near, right? Nowhere near ready. But how do you hook them, right? And I'm just going to say the answer that I found, and it reverberated this Monday when I was out in Pleasant Hill, is the sign, what is a right? And on the backside, where do our rights come from? Right. And I had a guy kind of smirk at me as he drove by, but I knew I had him thinking, you know? And so that sign to me at this point, from after doing this for a few weeks, is the most powerful sign that, and then applying that to when you're talking to people, starting there. What is a right and where do your rights come from? That lets them know what we're selling, right? Like better than Trump ain't the truth and Biden's always lying. In all honesty, I'm kind of trying to antagonize people with that in a way, or I'm responding to what I know their preconceptions are, right? But it doesn't really have anything to do with our message. The message is, what is a right? Where do your rights come from? And that starts them down that moral law path. So
And that word has worked pretty well for me, the word morality. I'll say it's all about morality. Whenever the conversation gets going for me, I've worked a lot on construction job sites. And what's kind of amazing about the construction industry is that tradespeople, maybe it's because their hands are in the dirt a little more, but they tend to be a little bit more open-minded than the people I've experienced in the office setting, which I've been there too. But sitting around on a job site, we can talk about whatever, and guys can swear and cuss and whatever, and talk about all the crazy stuff in the world. But when you start to introduce something that becomes a little bit of a difficult topic, everybody wants to pop off with all these details. And so what I've learned is to to sort of stop doing that myself, to stop feeding into that, because that doesn't get us anywhere. Say, what's the real problem? What's the real problem? The real problem is morality. Until humans solve this problem of not understanding morality, the difference between right and wrong, then we're going to be stuck, and we're never going to get to a place of freedom or a better world until we work with this fundamental issue of understanding the difference between right and wrong. And that's the key issue. And that is what is the difference between freedom and slavery, to put it in a nutshell. And when you get into that, then that's when people have to start saying, what do you mean by that? What do you mean by slavery? And all that. But it switches gears and gets away from all those details about who's running things and who actually dropped, who actually did what, and to what's the actual problem, the fundamental foundational problem. And I think that's where we need to go with this.
Oh yeah. I mean, we could talk about the symptoms all day, right? I mean, there's rabbit holes and cul-de-sacs on every topic, but you're right. When you stick to the fundamental, the principles, your rights, that applies to everybody. And it's an easy segue into freedom and sovereignty and ultimately consciousness, because this is what it all comes down to. We're trying to get someone to observe their behavior and change their mind, because it has to change in mind before they can change their behavior. So I think sticking to rights is a core essential, and I think that's an excellent place to start and to promote. And it just obviously ties right into natural law, into the bigger picture. But yeah, I know what sign you're talking about. I've held that sign too when I joined you on that one Monday. And yeah, I got a lot of honks and thumbs up and stuff. And it's like, it's perfect, because then you start asking those basic questions like, okay, well, what is a right? And where does it come from? And then you see the wheels start turning, and it's perfect, perfect time to engage in conversation.
Exactly. So I had written here, I'm just throwing these out just so I go through my outline. One is who are we trying to reach? So we touched on that, right? There's different levels of people. Like Mark talks about, he's trying to reach the teachers, well, those are people that are already some way down the path. Maybe it's our job to reach down even lower, like especially when you're out there on the beach at San Francisco, you're like, wow. But how to reach them and what to say, the how to reach them, we went over this weekend. We can go over some of those techniques. The one thing that happened on Monday, I had a couple walk by me. They both had a mask on, and I had the sign. I always step back when people are walking by, and I step back and I say hello. And I'm not sure which side of the sign she saw. She turned and walked right towards me and said, "I don't think we have any rights, actually." And I said, "Well, no, actually you do." I said, "You might have given them up, but in actual reality, you do have your rights, and actually you can't give them up. You just, you have to claim them, whatever." And so she was like, "No, I think we just have privileges." And I said, "Well, yeah, there are some things that are privileges, but you do have rights that you were born with." And she started walking away, and I think what I said was, "I don't have a right to violate you. You don't have a right to violate me." And I kind of went from there. And I was speaking to her loud because she had walked to the corner. She turned around and came back, and she said, "This is how I'm thinking right now because of what I've experienced, but you're right. Maybe I do need to listen to you." And she took a piece of paper from me. So I think that's another good message, and may become a sign is, I don't have the right to violate you, and you don't have the right to violate me, right?
Imagine a world where no one violated each other's rights. I think part of the problem that I've noticed too many people have is a limited ability to imagine. Um, folks are very stuck on saying and thinking, there's no way we could actually change things. It's impossible. especially if I were to start discussing the ideals of voluntarism or anarchism, or like a universal love type situation. That just seems so far-fetched. Some people even go as far to say that humans are basically evil. We have a nature that's evil, and we're bad. And I've thought a lot about this, and I think the reason people feel that way and see the world that way is because we're actually in a dark age. We're living through dark ages. Even though we have these incredible technologies and these possible potentials for amazing good things to happen, we're in a very dark time. And I've thought of it sometimes as like a fishbowl, in that we're in a fishbowl. And if you can imagine a little dropper of food coloring, right? And let's call this little dropper of food coloring evil. And you just put one little drop of evil in that fish tank, and the whole thing's colored with the evil. And we've all grown up in this water that's colored with evil all around us. It's in the medicines, it's in the foods, it's in the education system, it's in the governmental system, it's in the religions. All these lies are told to us from when we're born, holidays. Every single part of our existence has been tainted with this evil. And so you start trying to describe somebody a world that has no evil food coloring in it, and they're just kind of like, what the hell are you talking about? How could we get from where we're at to there? And so it almost seems inconceivable. So I think what you did for that moment was you gave that woman just a little bit of hope that maybe it doesn't have to be that way. If these guys all think that there could actually be a world without evil, then maybe it is possible. And that's kind of the point of why I called my podcast EndEvil. Is I'm trying to say, imagine that it is a possibility. Imagine we could stomp out evil, until we can imagine that, how can we even start that battle, because people are already defeated before the battle even begins, because I can't even think about it. It sounds too difficult, So part of it is just a little bit of hope and inspiration, saying, I think it's possible. I can imagine it, not tomorrow, not next week, but I can imagine it, but maybe I'm crazy.
Well, your crazy matches my crazy, so it's all good. We're all in the same boat. But yeah, it's kind of a big problem because people are so stuck in their own bubble. So, as long as it's not out their doorstep, then they don't want to think about it. They want nothing to do about it. So it's like you got to kind of hit them at the core with something that they can relate to.
And I was mentioning to you guys that a friend of mine once said that true art is simplifying the profound. And I really think those examples that I've discovered in terms of dealing with people are very simple, right? And like Will said, they get to the core of what people understand, and maybe what they've forgotten, But it's amazing to see the switch when you say something like that to somebody and you realize that it does hit home, even if they've been uh, uh, closed off to that spirituality and that morality and that truth. When you hit them with that, there's an innate understanding that you are speaking the truth.
Yeah, especially when you dive into questions on their own, get into their own psyche. I mean, for example, like rights, start asking those basic questions and watch them recognize their own folly and the fallacies when they start, saying, well, rights come from government, or they're a social construct, and it's, well, then people can take them away, right? And saying all this stuff, and that's when I've had the best luck communicating with people. It's just asking them those basic questions, and then they start tripping over their own their own statements, their own false axioms, and that's when I see, the light bulb pops on. But yeah, I mean, there's techniques. There's definitely techniques.
One question I've been thinking about lately, I haven't really tried too much yet, is asking people, what gifts have you been given in life, and where have they coming from? You know, can you name to me 2 or 3 times when your government has helped you out and given you something, or made your life better? Or can you think of times in your life where that's been done by other human beings? Because for me, all the best experiences I could think of true gifts I've received in life came from my local community, people I know, and and good things they did. And so, like, it's also goes the same thing with battling evil and battling the evil in the world. It's going to come from local people. It's going to come from us, from each other. It's not going to come from some outside source of people we don't know. People we don't know that don't know us don't really want to help us. Why would they? you know how much time do you spend trying to help out people you don't know, a- at all, and they've never met? Well, no, most of all of our attention goes to direct family members, close friends, people in our neighborhood, people we work with. So that's really our sphere of control, and our sphere of effect is on those right around us. So we're the creators, we're the imaginers of reality. So we have the ability to speak truth, and we have the ability to change reality. What we say and what we do actually affects reality. And so somehow people have sort of lost touch with this amazing value that we have. And again, that's bringing me back to what I said before about inspiration, and just showing people that you can do things and we can help each other. And maybe we can do more in the future as the truth community outreach and actually provide help for people and one another. That would be when we're really showing the government up, when we can show, we can provide a better service than they can. And we got a long way to go. We need to get a lot more people helping before we get there, but that's the direction I think we need to go.
Well, yeah, and what we're talking about here is how do you reach all of those people, that we are going to need as we build this new future. And on that point, we talked about how politically conservatives are probably closer to the values of anarchy because they are more connected to individual freedom and the first principles, which were embedded and coded into the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. So there is the natural law of values in there. And so because of that, because conservatives are connected to that ideologically, they probably are, there probably is an easier in with people who are conservative. Although I did also say that that's on some issues. I'm sure there's other issues where we'll find that the liberal perspective is, there's a lot of ins there as well. But at least in terms of the first principles that you talk about in anarchy, of the non-aggression principle and the principle of self-defense, that seems to be more connected to the conservative perspective. So, and I found those people tend to be more open. I did do one event in Sacramento at a rally, which was like a reopen California rally, but a lot of conservatives there, a lot of Trump people there. But I had a bunch of people coming up to me and interested, even though they held those political beliefs, where I would tend to think that liberal minded people, left wing politically, would be less receptive to it, and they actually think we're conservative.
The thing is, there's such a big um, puzzle that needs to be presented, and um, like you can get someone's attention, and they'll be sort of on the same page with you ostensibly, because they're talking about it in like in terms of not me personally, but oh, this is what people should do. This is what other people should do. Yeah, you're right. Like an ideology. But when you start bringing it home, like, no, that means that we need to separate from the government. We need to stop doing what they tell us. We need to go back to work when they say don't work. And we need to stop paying them, and that's when it starts getting tricky. Conservative people are also the biggest defenders of military, the biggest defenders of police, and they're very entrenched in the idea of authority in many cases. It's a mixed bag. I think a lot of times what it really comes down to at this point, this occurred to me tonight. All the people that have been wounded and injured and hurt by the controlling forces of the world, like you said, even bigger than government, are these mafias, these banking mafias, these occult elites that work on mind control through governments and through corporations and through religions. And they've injured people with their electrical grids and their weather manipulation, geoengineering chemicals, and vaccines with chemicals in them, and food with poisons in them, and fluoride. A lot of people have been injured or made sick in some way or another. And it's been occurring to me recently that maybe those are the people we should reach out to. Like, homeless people tend to really know what's up. They've been kicked out of society in a lot of cases, or pushed themselves out because they can't stand the way it is. And and if you think about the story of Jesus too, like, he went around to all those the underbelly of society, the street women and the beggars and the blind and the people on the side of the road. So I think in a lot of ways the misfits are our audience, the people that aren't fitting in already. And if we get enough of those people involved, then you start to get a movement. And there's a lot of people that aren't ever going to change their mind or really do anything different in their day-to-day lives until they see lots of other people doing something. So what we need to find is other people that are inspired. What inspires people? Well, if they've been beat up and damaged and they're sick, they're frustrated and pissed off. So we give them somewhere to go, like, to understand why you've been damaged and why you've been traumatized. So we're trying to put this puzzle together to explain, like, we've all been traumatized by this lifestyle we're living. And really, at the core, it's because people's morals are just not where they should be. People don't understand that when you take something from someone, that's stealing. It doesn't matter if you call yourself a government or you call yourself an institution or a religion. If you're doing something by force, if you're taking something, that's stealing. And that is a hard concept even to get across to conservatives, who are a little more open-minded on the surface,
Yeah.
but they're more hardened when you get down to that deeper level of authority itself is a problem.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much why we need more speakers and more teachers of natural law, right? Because everyone's got their own unique style and attributes that they can harness. And I really like kind of what we all been doing in the local communities. You kind of start at the 0 point, ground zero for you, and you can work your way out. Of course, you have the internet and stuff like that, but being face to face with someone and having that verbal conversation, it's completely different than being online, typing some shit. But so starting in your own community is a good way. And you can dive in and go to the left or the right. They have opposite brain imbalances. The left is probably a little more new agey, but totally enriched in solipsism, right? And then go to the conservative side, the right, and they're all about government. And I've had conversations with conservatives that they were with me on vaccines and the banking system and all that. But as soon as I started getting to anarchy and, you know, the illegitimacy of government, they start pumping their brakes and they're just like, oh, no, you know, we need government, you know, even though it's a little bit, we still need it. And uh, so yeah, it's kind of about, you know, fine tuning your toolbox. And, you know, again, I think that rights is the common ground. It's the segue for all types of people that can relate to.
Yeah, definitely. So we had talked about the basic boots on the ground type stuff with business cards, flyers, stickers. Um, Will and I both have some experience in the music industry. I don't know about you, Chris. We
Just on
both,
a hobby basis, I've played a lot.
yeah. Well, you know, it's like the idea of like the street team, you know, and like you get stickers out there and just like, you know, who knows where they end up, you know what I'm saying? And you know, business cards, you know, just getting those out to people at these events, you know, that's, you know, kind of taking it back to the, you know, off the internet. And then we all talked about social media, you know, right after that someone mentioned that. And so again, there's got to be that balance between both, and we shouldn't rely all on social media, but we shouldn't shy away from social media. These are all techniques that we can use. We had talked about contacting other alternative media um, sites and uh, influencers and podcasters and mavens. The term maven. Uh, Will, why don't you break down what a maven is?
A maven is almost like an apprentice, someone that is open-minded and can take in the information and understands it and wants to take in the information, but also has really good communication skills. Normally that person is, you know, pretty popular or, you know, has a really good network. And so, you know, it's collaborating, you know, with collaborating with someone that is, it's got a good influence and ultimately, you know, um, joining up with another teacher that can get it going. So
Yeah, and you know, we touched on Will. You had said the comment about like you know, typically, stereotypically, left-leaning people are a little bit more new agey, and you know, and then with the conservative-leaning people, they're more into the traditional religion, you know, Christianity specifically. But I had had the idea from reading an article that recently came out with Bill Gates, where he's talking about their techniques for vaccine uptake to get people in the communities to take more vaccines. And so I wrote down to we need to study the corporate sorcerers and learn their techniques. And one of the techniques I picked up in that article was he said they go out to the trusted people in the community, which a lot of times were the religious leaders. And so I kind of been thinking up a plan to kind of go and target, you know, after a church program or go kind of just post up across the street and have our information and start reaching those people, because I do think again there is a way in through religion, and I do think there's a way in through New Age philosophy too. I think you can it's pretty easy to take those things and then say, okay, that's the exoteric. You need to get into the esoteric, you know, and learning the esoteric will only strengthen the value and the beauty of the exoteric belief system that you've been following. So maybe you can touch on that, Chris.
Yeah, I'm actually working right now on a podcast presentation that I'm calling dishonest storytelling. And I've been thinking a lot about recently all the lies that are told. And maybe that's one way to get people to pay attention. What I often do is point out, like, I'm just totally surprised when somebody talks about something from the news, because I don't watch any news really. I get my news through other people talking about what's going on in the news. And I'll go, oh, is that what's going on now, huh? Do you guys really still watch that stuff? Like, you believe lies, huh? Like that, everything on the news that's being told, it's not all 100% lies. There are truths in there, but the whole organization is made up of liars, because they've always been free to lie. Politicians are, what politician in history has ever been 100% honest, or even mostly honest? People have been very conditioned to accept a dishonest culture. And so it's up to us to be extra honest. And that's one thing I work on a lot, is being a very honest person. I try to stick to that principle of honesty. I think it's realness. We're more real people when we're totally truthful. And it's very common for people to be living in two worlds and having disagreements in their own head. And one of those ways we do that is by justifying everything. And so when you're talking to people and they see that I don't have any justifications for my actions, I'm very straightforward and out front with, what I see is right and what I see is wrong. And I'm not trying to call something wrong right. I'm not trying to explain away anything or justify anything. um I don't know exactly how to encourage honesty in the public, but I do know that that's something that I see as a point to keep bringing up, that we need to stop telling stories. We need to stop lying to ourselves. um Maybe you guys got some good ways to share that with other people, but that's something I've been thinking a lot about, and how to explain that to people. Because when you call someone a liar, no one's going to like that. But I guess just asking the question, are we really being honest with ourselves? Because truth is self-evident. I don't need to prove it to you. You can figure it out for yourself. Maybe that'd be one way to say it.
Yeah, we got to be way showers, right? And I live by the philosophy, seek truth, speak truth. So, and there's different ways that you can be brutally honest with somebody. And I've always had a bad habit with being overly aggressively honest. But um, I really like, there's got to be a level of confidence, when you're teaching this type of information. I really like going to, and I thought about doing this. There's a Unity Center in my community, in my neighborhood, where they have new age stuff all the time, and pretty, 50 to 100 people sometimes. It's festivals and all kinds of stuff. But going there and directing a presentation for that type of crowd, truth is truth. The truth's going to be there. But it's a good tool. It's definitely a good tool. And I like what you said, John, about, going to, some of the churches and standing out there and promote and stuff like that. But, being honest is an internal process, and a lot of people aren't ready to face that. Some people just need a little kickstart, and, some people need, the next life. But hey, that's what we're here to do. We're here to be way showers and communicate as best as possible.
That's right. Okay, well, we're gonna take a break, and then we'll come back for part 2, because we still got a lot of topics to talk about.
Gia.